Welcome to HeartWired, Emotionally Intelligent Leadership for the AI World, the podcast that brings technology to meet humanity. I'm Dr. MJ, your host. If you've ever attended a class or worked at your neighborhood YMCA, or perhaps trusted them with your children for childcare, if you have, you know that the YMCA is always about connection, people helping people, strengthening communities, creating a sense of belonging. Today, we'll explore how artificial intelligence can help the YMCAs across the nation amplify their mission. I love this conversation because it's really about blending heart and technology. At the core of our heart-wired approach is emotional intelligence. We have two incredible guests joining us. First, I'll introduce George Leis. George, I've known you for many years. You were the CEO of Santa Barbara Bank and Trust when I worked there. You're an incredible leader, a credible community leader, and you're now the executive vice president of CalPrivate Bank here in Montecito. And you're the YMCA USA Board Chair. Woo! That is so exciting. And of course, Jorge Perez, which George will introduce a little bit later on. But thank you both for coming here. So, George, I'll start with you. How did the AI initiative begin?
Mary Jean, the AI initiative really began because people like Jorge are uh, visionary and mission driven. Jorge, your career is amazing, right? I mean, just to set it up, Mary Jean, I got to know Jorge through my work at YUSA, and Jorge, you touch almost 150,000 people a year. You manage 14 YMCA branches in sort of the greater Cincinnati community. You touch a little bit in Kentucky, I believe,
Yep.
and you are in the 164-year history of your organization. I believe you're the first Latino American to lead that organization. And Mary Jean, Jorge is a thought leader. And in a national board like I serve on, having individual like Jorge who makes stuff happen. And when you told me that we wanted to talk about AI today, the first person I thought of was Jorge, because he has recently spoken both to our national board and to a group of YMCA's that were being hosted right here in Santa Barbara. And he's actually making it done, and he makes himself available to our YMCA movement, free and willing, and he's been nice enough to join us here today.
Thank you so much. Jorge, I truly appreciate you being here. And George, thank you for the connection. This has been
Sure.
great. So, what inspired that whole idea on the board to say, okay, it's time to start integrating AI into the YMCA community?
At the national board, I think the accelerant that sort of really pushed AI was the pandemic. So much changed in our YMCA movement, during and particularly post the pandemic. Our YMCA's have been forever uh, changed. So we took a look at the national board how AI could sort of help people connect, help them think about how they give and seek support, and that was sort of the genesis, right? We had to make do with a little less staff. We had to look at the revenue mixes that changed. And as the sort of governing engine for YUSA, we partnered with a company called Amazon Web Services to sort of help us think about how AI could help the movement, glean, I don't know, insights, identify trends, and create efficiencies that weren't possible because, before AI, all of those things required money, FTE, and time. And those are things that are so precious today. So for us, it wasn't about, I don't think it was, and Jorge can speak to this because he's actually doing this, but the move towards AI wasn't about just chasing technology. It was really staying true, using technology to allow us to stay true to our mission. Uh, it gives us the way, I think, even to strengthen our mission, uh, to reach more people, to interact with them in a much smarter, more efficient way, and even promote a greater level of transparency.
Wow, that's incredible because, you're everything you're talking about is just about, um, emotional intelligence, where you're bringing that human center into the AI world. I love that. So, how are you governing that this AI usage? And because we talked a little bit about that, and that's so important when you're bringing it in, especially in a larger organization. How do you govern the usage of AI? Using your own emotional intelligence, using your own self awareness, building the trust and the interpersonal skills into the equation.
You know, I feel like, well, first, and Jorge will tell us the thing that inspired me, and it inspires me about when Jorge speaks to our movement and to our board is first, try it, take a chance. But as the national governing board, we thought it was appropriate to make sure that if we're going to embrace AI, it embraces who we are. And at the YMCA, we are about, caring. We're about honesty. We're about respect. We're about responsibility. We're about all of those things. So as we think about incorporating AI into processes and procedures, those are sort of our milestones, guideposts, however you want to take it. So, we at YUSA are working with guys like Jorge across the movement to develop policies, procedures to make sure that, as we enter a world of AI, it aligns with, our strategic direction, and we stay mission focused. And the way we did that at the national level is, we brought in a partner. If the partner we brought in was Amazon Web Services, and not a commercial for those guys. This is who we selected at YUSA, and we selected them because they're in the they're doing it. They were able to give us uh, those guidelines as we build out things. They've been a good partner and a great source of advice to make sure that we stay true to those pillars.
Wow. So I'm going to turn it over to Jorge and ask a couple of questions of you. But one of the themes that we explore here at HeartWired is how emotional intelligence guides technology. So making sure that AI works for people, not we're working for AI. And emotional intelligence begins with the self awareness and understanding our own emotions, our biases, our impact. The YMCA is known for their human centered approach. So I'm curious, how do you ensure that technology, especially AI agents, enhance the human connection that's at the heart of YMCA programs instead of
Gene, I
replacing?
am so excited because what Jorge's about to reveal to you, gets me excited every time it tells us. It's just it's super. So Jorge, take it away.
Yeah,
I'm
take
so
it away.
excited for you to share this with my friends, out in this neck of the woods, and so proud of the work you do. So
Well, George, I would be remiss if I didn't thank you for your service to the YMCA, because it takes leaders, both that are volunteers and that are part of the paid staff that make the YMCA work. I'm going to answer that question by going back to the conversation about what initiated all of this. And COVID was highlighted. And I'm going to give it to you from our perspective, from the perspective of the local YMCA movement. Across the country, we had about 25,000 uh, full-time professionals that worked at the YMCA. Post-pandemic, we were more than half that number on the other side. And most of them were youth development experts. They'd left. And so, as a youth development expert, I understood that we had this gaping hole of human development, human leadership that had just walked out the door, and we were left without the knowledge, that is so critical for all the reasons that you heard George talk about our values and how we understand how the impact that we want to make in the lives of people. And so for me, it was, how do I get to that many people that fast when we are in this much trouble? And the first AI agent that was created on the ChatGPT platform was an agent called Yasmin. And Yasmin is a trained agent in youth development. So the way we connect agents to human-centered connections is just the same way when we train a human being to come and work on our staff. You make sure that they have the right qualifications, you make sure that they get the right training, and you make sure you go back and forth and test and retest so that they do and deliver what we need to deliver, which is help us solve some problems so we can get to the part of the human to human connection. And Yasmin is one of the most used AI agents today across our movement. There's no way we could have scaled that if we had looked to humans to sit with all of the staff that all of a sudden needed a significant amount of training and development. And Yasmin sits literally on their screen, ready to answer questions in line with our values and our.
Wow, it must have taken a lot of work to kind of bring in those values into the AI world. So thank you for doing that. Well, I want to talk a little bit about empathy. It's a critical component for AI, and it is also called a soft skill, but really it's a strategic advantage, especially when you're going through change, like you're going through, and the innovation. So in emotional intelligence, empathy helps us to really think about our unspoken fears and resistance and to really understand others, like how others are going through this. So, what's your approach in developing future leaders who can balance that empathy with efficiency, leading both the people and the AI, because they are leading the AI agents too with integrity?
I love the way you pose the question because it's both, right? And that's one of the things that has changed is we're no longer leading a team of humans. We're leading a team of humans and artificial intelligence to help us create the right environments. And it sounds a little spooky. It sounds crazy, in fact, to think that that's what we're doing. But the reality is that the YMCA does a really great job at attracting people that are already leaning in this direction. Think about it. Individuals that come work for the YMCA already are there because they want to make a difference in the lives of people, whether they're working with kids or they're working with seniors. So empathy is already there. What we need to do is make sure that when we train those agents, that we apply to them the same governance, the same values, the same expectations that we expect of our leaders. So, George, when I hear the word governance, how are we going to create the right governance for our AI agents? Part of my response is we already have some of that. Most of us have employee handbooks, for example, that stipulate what the values, what the ethics, what the expectations are going to be for our team. You just need to take that and say to the AIs or train the AIs to do the same. Except for the AIs, you don't have to give them a bereavement policy. They don't take vacation. They don't. You don't talk to them about what payroll is going to look like. Um, and here's the extra benefit: once you train an AI to be to speak and to work with empathy, you don't have to retrain it. It is baked in. And AIs don't will never lose their temper. They'll never have a bad day. They won't be swayed by one idea or another because we put the same guardrails we expect with humans and they react that way. And it's a little weird, but already we're beginning to see that the number one use of AI, this has been tracked by the Harvard Business Review, is companionship. The number one thing people are using artificial intelligence for right now is to have a friend that they can talk to and connect with. What organizations like the YMCA can do is make sure that that friend is showing up with the right values, with the right empathy, and the right engagement, and ultimately pushing that human being to build human to human connections. And that's what I think AI can do.
You know
Yeah,
what,
and George,
Jorge, you touched. You
Yeah.
you touched on something that resonated with us at the national board level. It was that governance isn't about compliance in this case. It's about trust. Because you know what? If we're onboarding, an agent that is AI based, that interaction with our precious members has to be perfect. And Jorge, if you could just the way you train those AI agents to represent, who we are as a movement and who you are as a leader is extraordinary, right? It's more than just feeding in the policies and procedures. You have a rigor that goes through the testing and the checking and the testing. It's you have that continuous sort of loop to make sure that the values that you want to represent are being represented at a high standard.
100%. And here's what's so incredible is what AI is allowing us to do is to do this at the speed in which we do it with each other. In other words, I don't know how to code. I don't know how to do any of the technology stuff. I'm an adopter and adapter, and I use technology as often as I possibly can. But right now, in order to create an agent that sits on the ChatGPT platform, you start with the job description, just like you do with a human. And you make sure that that job description includes what the expectations are of knowledge, of experience, of values. And I will tell you, if I lifted the system or the documents that are governing Yasmin right now, it would look exactly like what governs a staff member who works with young people. Same experience, same expectations, same values. The difference is again understanding that you can do this, you can scale it. And if I did not mention this earlier, I'll mention this now. Yasmin can take on 150,000 inquiries at the same time.
Wow. That's
And
a lot.
there's not a human out there that can do that. And one
Yeah.
of the next steps for us with these agents, we've got 16 of them now. So we're going to add more. We expect to double the number by the end of the year. But also begin to give Yasmin an email, give Yasmin a text capacity, a phone number, so that if our staff members need to call her, text her, or email her, she's available 24/7. And we're testing them back and forth to make sure that her answers align with the way we would have answered if we were taking that phone call or answering or tackling that question.
So, I have a question on how are the people reacting to Yasmin? What is their reaction? Do they friend her? Do they like her? You know?
I can tell you, I have a lot of individuals that come up to me and they say, "Hey, I just want to thank you for Yasmin. If it weren't for her," and they fill in the blank, just like they talk about staff members. Uh,
Mhm.
our most widely used AI agent is our HR agent. Harmony has helped staff and YMCA's all over this country and in Canada dig through some really complicated things. Think about what it's like to do a performance evaluation on an employee that's not doing well. And you need a steady, clear, values-based voice to give you some guidance, and Harmony does that.
Wow.
And they just they love them. That's why our agents all have faces and names.
They all have faces. I'd love to see that. So, let's talk a little bit about leadership. Leadership is evolving very quickly. Now we have, we're managing AI agents as well as humans. So, but the heart of leadership, I feel, is really emotional intelligence. It's that being aware, being managing ourselves, reading others, building that relationship, that trust that we need to have. So, what emotional skills do you think are most essential as these leaders are coming in? And I'm talking about leaders that are maybe managing others, but also they're leading and they're influencing the community. So, how are they navigating this kind of digital transformation?
Mary Jean, just when Jorge was in Santa Barbara a couple of maybe a month or so ago, he said something, and I'm not going to get the quote exactly right, but he said something like, "We're not." As Jorge is developing this at his YMCA, he said something like, "We're just not asking what AI can do, but how it can help, his community thrive." And I think, that is sort of the basic, and apologies, Jorge, if I got a little off, but, that was the message I took away from your talk with us out in Santa Barbara about a month ago. And maybe I toss it back to you because that was the thing that, inspired me, to be quite honest, about,
I
how we could support that nationally.
I mean, one of the things, think about what I just said about Yasmin and all the things that I have to make sure she had. Well, it started with me understanding what all of those things were. We become curators of these experiences. And just to model the importance and the connection, I want to read to you, because I knew you were going to ask me this question, what Morgan, our marketing advisor, said I should say to that question.
Awesome. Well, that's going to be cool.
An
Uh,
emotional, intelligent YMCA leader is an AI in an AI enabled world, is someone who leads with both heart and foresight. They understand that while technology can optimize systems, it's empathy that sustains relationships. These leaders are self aware, they know their own values and lead with authenticity. They listen deeply, not just to data, but to the voices of people we serve, ensuring that AI never replaces but reinforces our human mission. This is
Um,
what we got Morgan to say. But I had to make sure that Morgan had those values. So when I asked that question, it didn't respond with a response that might sign something like this. An AI leader in today's world is somebody who uses AI to ensure that they maximize profit and ensures that we get as much as we can from the people that are buying our service.
wow. Well, I know that the YMCA is like a leadership incubator because I know you have great programs for youth and staff and volunteers. So how does the AI come into this? Do you use any of that for the youth that are coming on board?
Well, we're still one of the challenges that we have right now, and this is where AI has this scaling that I think is really important to describe, which is some of it is not super at risk and dangerous, and then there's parts that are at that put us at risk and very dangerous. And so, as long as we're using it to advise us to create programs for kids or create narratives like I used here, I think we're safe because I'm curating the experiences. But if I ever take an agent and put it in front of a kid, especially if it's a topic like bullying or self-image or something like that, I've got to put really clear guardrails around that agent. For example, I don't want that agent to take any content from the World Wide Web. It has to completely live on the content that I give it. Now, if I was looking to create an agent to help a young person navigate the college going process, maybe a first generation college student, then an agent can easily be taught to do that with empathy and care, much in the way we taught Morgan to do marketing. Um, but I think it's absolutely critical that if we ever put an agent with our members, with our families, with our seniors, that the supervision of those agents is ironclad, and humans must remain in the loop. The more we have at stake when it comes to human development.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for explaining the guidelines because I think that's so critical because that's some of the fear that people have. George, were
yeah.
you going to mention
Yeah, I know. I
something?
just think, I think that's why, Jorge is such a that's why he's such an important thought leader in our movement because, again, I think the message that I took away as got to know Jorge is he's an absolute, he encourages the movement to use AI. In fact, at our offsite, he gave us a couple of assignments to do, to sort of continue to reinforce that. But he also and this is where the governance piece, and he also gave those cautionary, don't upload your membership data to the World Wide Web. Don't the interaction between a child and an agent is sacred. Don't don't allow it to be contaminated by influences outside of what you actually want to control. He drove those points home, and he's helping us, create policies nationally for that, because he is not only so trusted, but his real world experience is delivering on that mission.
And Mary Jane, I think that this AI is going to challenge us as leaders, not just because, there's another leader who's joined the team, but to George's point, we have to get better at being leaders. When we engage with human beings, we have a lot of wiggle room because the humans themselves will adjust to us. So if you're not empathetic, you might hire somebody who's empathetic on your behalf, for example. But if you're not empathetic and you're leading AIs, they're just going to reflect you, period.
Mm.
Which means you don't have a pass anymore. You are going to have to figure that out. And so I think it's important that we become practitioners of the use of AIs all the time. You shouldn't ever go a day without using it. I've got 3 screens, and one of my screens is directly devoted to the integration of AI. And the reason for that is because I want to become an empathetic leader that knows how to lead the humans, but also knows how to lead the artificial intelligence that will have a profound impact on how we serve people.
Amazing. That is what this is all about, is really making sure that our leaders have that kind of sense of integrity, of values, and lead with that empathy. I want to thank both of you so much for coming today and sharing your wisdom, sharing your thoughts about AI and leadership and emotional intelligence. Thank you again, and I look forward to having maybe you on again. Thanks.
Jorge, thank you. Mary Jean, thank you very much. Really appreciate the time. Have a great afternoon.